Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. A siren calls to us, sweet and salty like the sea, beckoning us into its deceptively delicious and seductive grasp, while its true intention is to pull us into a never ending cycle of desire. Which is to say, Matthew and I really like the Nutella ice cream, and I guess it's safer than salads.
Fair point.
I'm just being very selective about any fruit my kid and I get and using some yard salad that I have. I think you guys know me well enough to know now I'm kind of a foragey weirdo, and I have a bunch of like dandelion and bitter lettuce and lamb's quarter, so can make salads out of that. And I'm planning on trying some local establishments for produce in the coming week. I hope you guys are safe from the poop lettuce. It's a scary thing.
We remarked last week, but none of you seemed to have strong opinions. Either way, at least no one expressed them. We thought the little experiment we tried last week didn't go so great, and while we were pleased enough with the episode in terms of how it turned out, it was about half the length they normally are. So this week we've returned to the old way of doing things, and we're going to go episode by episode, mostly scene by scene, but perhaps not in as much detail as we normally do. Unless you guys just like that, but we have been bogged down by the feeling that, like, we're saying too much. we
Yeah.
In doing our little bonus The Vampire Lestat recaps, where we are summarizing the plot, but very briefly, where we condense an hour's worth of plot into 10 to 15 minutes. Dark Shadows, we're talking about roughly an hour and 20 minutes of TV, but we're taking an hour to an hour and a half to do it. We're trying to find a balance, and we appreciate your patience while we do so.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Also, just always let us know if you have a preference.
Episode 216, Victoria Winters reminds us that Willie is back, but not as rapey now.
We resume with blood covered Willie and Jerry Maguire trying to rough him up and make him talk about what he's been up to. Jerry is trying to make him look at his blood sleeve, and he is all, look at it, look at it. And Willie doesn't want to look at it. Taste of his own medicine or something. Opening credits.
Jerry is shifting pretty quickly from angry at Willie to concerned for Willie. He tells him that he's trying to help. Willie does not want help. He begs to be left alone. Jerry brings up him going to the cemetery, but Willie denies it.
He says he knows he was there because he found his cigarette butts. Jerry wants him to go back to Collinwood, but Willie is not about it. Bert comes up and is trying to help, but Jerry really doesn't want his help and is kind of like, mind your fucking business. Jerry says he wants him to apologize to Liz and Carolyn, and Burke thinks he should go to a hospital. Again, Jerry's all butt out, dude. He eventually does, and Jerry and Willie talk some more about not knowing why he's all fucked up.
Burke says his goodbyes and tells Willie that he doesn't expect to see him again. Like, sorry you don't feel well, but just a reminder you do need to leave town. Jerry tries to get Willie to finish his drink, but he doesn't want it. And now Jerry is very concerned. Like, what do you mean you don't want to drink? In the foyer at Collinwood, Liz is telling Carolyn that it's a bit late for her to be going out, and Carolyn is teenage fussing back at her like, "Shut up, mom." Carolyn wants to avoid Willie, but Liz assures her that he has gone, so she doesn't need to be worried anymore. But Carolyn is suspicious, suspecting they haven't seen the last of him. And right on cue, Jerry and Willie enter. Jerry forces Willie through an awkward apology, practically putting the words into his mouth. Jerry bullies Liz into speaking with him privately.
They go to the drawing room and Carolyn goes to leave, but Willie stops her and is sincerely apologizing. She at first doesn't believe him, but then sort of does, but then still takes off because she's like, fuck that dude, though. But that's weird. Why are you acting so weird and timid? Willie is alone with the Barnabas portrait and he shudders and shakes and then collapses onto the stairs.
In the drawing room, Liz and Jerry are arguing about Willie. And as Rebecca said, in the foyer, Willie is looking nervously towards the painting of Barnabas that's been here this whole time. And as he's walking past, he covers his face to avoid looking at the painting, but he can't help himself and he looks and then shrieks in terror. Jerry and Liz enter the foyer to find that Willie has collapsed. And then we cut right to a close up on the portrait. Willie wakes with a start and a shout. Jerry is concerned about him, and Willie asks what happens. He doesn't know where he is all of a sudden. He's been taken back into his old room at Collinwood. Jerry explains that he fainted in the foyer, and suddenly Willie remembers and he's panicked and desperate to get out of there. But Jerry is trying to keep him around, like, don't worry, I can talk Liz into letting you stay. So he leaves Willie alone to do that, and Willie just cries and mutters to himself.
While he's crying and freaking out in bed downstairs, Jerry is trying to tell Liz that Willie should stay as he is not well. They argue and he threatens blackmail. This happens several times throughout these episodes. Like anytime she says anything, he's just like, blackmail, blackmail. He pushes and twists, and finally she agrees he may stay, but it's because he's forcing her hand. A little later, Liz is telling Carolyn about all the goings on and how Willie's going to stay, and she expects her to be pissed that she's letting him stay, but she's like, no, you're right. If he's sick, he's sick. And honestly, he was weird and seems like in some sort of spiritual pain and was all tortured earlier. She feels like something bad is looming, like she does when she gets her little foreshadowings. In Willie's room, Jerry is trying to help him sit up. He sees his wrist is bandaged. Willie won't let him look at it and is freaked out and crazy and doing a pretty good Renfield vampire madness bit, which Matthew and I were talking about during the show about how good this second Willie is at acting and how we really didn't get to learn much about the first Willie other than that he was rapey. And we were talking about how it is a little bit of a weird device that they
I haven't read about exactly why Willie was recast after 4 or 5 episodes, but I wonder if they did it on purpose because
they were going to give him a rapist's redemption arc and didn't want it to be.
and so they wanted us to hate the first scary, rapey Willie, but because this Willie was going to have a change of heart, they wanted a more sympathetic actor.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I think it's kind of weird if it was intentional. It is a little awkward. The first Willie was horrible, but you can't help but kind of like poor crazy Renfield. Like, oh, crazy Willie.
I had referenced this actor before. His name is John Carlin. I know him from my childhood because do you remember the police procedural from the 80s, Cagney and
I
Lacey
do remember Cagney and
with
Lacey.
Tyne Daly? He was Tyne Daly's husband on Cagney and Lacey. He was Mr. Lacey.
Well, I like New Willie as the actor who plays New Willie. Like he does a really good job at what he's doing. I would have been curious to see somebody make the actual transition from being this creepy hardline evil bastard to
Well,
simpering, whimpering, terrified puddle.
I mean, we kind of did. John Carlin got to do the fighting with Burke and being a dick to
Sure, yeah.
Maggie and Sam at the bar. So there was some of that, but we will look into the recasting to see if anyone has said anything about it. It could just be a coincidence, like maybe they decided to expand the role, but the guy they initially hired was only available that 1 week or something.
Sure. I mean, it
But
could have been anything. Well, either way, Willie is having his vampire madness, and then end credits.
yeah, Jerry is trying to see the wound, and Willie exclaims in panic that no one can see it and nobody can touch it. He gets all feral and hisses this at Jerry, like, nobody can see
Right.
it.
Yeah. That's why I was saying like crazy Willie Renfield, because like he is doing that looking around all wild and like
Indeed. Episode 217, Victoria Winters updates us on the time of day. It's late afternoon. And Willie is mysteriously ill and also afraid of the coming darkness.
Jerry finally gets a peep at Willie's wound, and Willie says it's nothing. And Jerry sees it and is like, oh, well, yeah, it is really small. Just a cut on your arm. But it looks weird, and your arm looks gray and has no veins, like it's been drained of blood. Opening credits.
Willie plays dumb to Jerry's questions. He makes up a story about a fight in a bar. Rebecca missed a moment ago that when we first check in with Willie, the first thing he does upon waking up is ask Jerry what time it is. And when he learns that it's 4 p.m., he panics and wants to get out because he's afraid of the dark. After Willie makes up a story about having a fight in a bar with a mysterious stranger with a razor, he begins to faint and talk gibberish. Jerry says, well, they'll just talk later. And so he lets him sleep. And we cut right to a close up on the portrait of Barnabas, where, standing directly in front of the portrait, Carolyn is explaining Willie's mysterious illness and renewed temporary residence at Collinwood. Vicky is uneasy having Willie around still, and Carolyn explains, like, well, I don't really like it either, but he is quite sick and like he was real weird. You should have seen him. Carolyn says she's more frightened of Willie now because it seems almost as if he's become someone else. Vicky is initially dismissive, as if weird unexplainable shit isn't always going on around here. Like, gee,
Yeah,
Carolyn, must be your imagination. That sounds out of the realm of possibility, not like ghosts and bird ladies or anything.
right. Yeah.
But Carolyn further explains Willie's change in personality. Vicky still suggests she could just be imagining things, but they're interrupted by Jerry coming down. Carolyn asks him how Willie is, and he explains that he has a small cut and seeming blood loss. Carolyn asks Jerry if he could be faking it, and Jerry says no, he really thinks he's sick, and Carolyn believes him. Jerry asks Vicky to go ask Mrs. Johnson, which seems like he could just do this himself, but he asks Vicky to ask Mrs. Johnson to prepare food for Willie. This is fine because Carolyn wants to talk to Jerry privately anyway, and she calls him into the drawing room and closes the doors. Inside, she demands to know where Willie has been. Jerry says he doesn't know, and Carolyn says she doesn't believe him. Carolyn asks what Jerry meant the other night when he warned her not to ask so many questions. He won't elaborate beyond saying he is Liz's friend and he is protecting her from something. Carolyn tells him again that she knows that he's the cause of the trouble for Liz and she doesn't want him in the house and wishes he never came.
Back upstairs, Willie is having his Renfield fits of fearful terror and tossing and turning and crying. Vicky comes in to check on him and he freaks out and tells her to get the hell out and is a little aggressive for the first time in a minute, then backs it up and is like, please leave. And she does.
Well, she's come to bring the food that
Yeah.
Jerry had asked for, and when she wakes Willie up, he's scared. She's just brought dinner, and he's worried when he learns that it's dinner time. He asks her to look out the window and check to see if it's dark. She tells him there's still a little light out, and he's relieved, saying that there's still time. Then Willie asks Vicky to leave abruptly.
After she leaves, he gets up and is freaking out and trying to leave and put on his jacket. He is about to go, but Jerry comes in and puts him back in bed. Then Willie says he's tired and wants to go to sleep. So he changed tack pretty quickly. Jerry leaves and then he gets back up and gets his shit. He goes to the window and mutters out to the night, it's too late. It's done. It's too late. He's sobbing. And then you hear the heartbeat coming in. And he's like, I hear you. I hear you. I'm coming. I hear you. So he was talking to the heartbeat and he's on his way.
Willie creeps down the stairs into the foyer and he's stumbling on the way down. He walks to the painting that has been here this whole time.
Kind of like a zombie. Like, did you know his walk was weird when he like got down and he was in the when he could see the painting. He then started walking in a way that he does later too, where it's like a weird zombie walk. It was weird.
I didn't notice, but also I was typing at the time,
Sure.
so I'm not always looking. That makes sense that he is being compelled
Yes.
and whatnot. Anyway, Jerry catches Willie running out of the door and physically restrains him and asks him where he's going, but Willie can't answer. So Jerry urges him back to bed. Willie pretends for a moment to comply and lets Jerry lead him to the stairs, but then he shoves Jerry face first into the stairs and runs out the door. Jerry, pissed, gives chase. Willie is back in the cemetery and Jason is hot on his tail. Willie returns to the Collins tomb while Jerry looks around outside and whisper screams for Willie, which is funny.
Yeah.
He's like,
Willie,
Willie.
Willie, Willie.
In the tomb, Willie lets himself into the secret room, pulling that cord in the lion's mouth, and the phantom heartbeat starts again. Outside, we see Jerry approach the tomb and enter, only to find an empty tomb, the secret room now hidden again. End credits. Episode 218.
Victoria Winters tells us evil hides in the night, and now Willie is also hiding in the night. We see Jerry looking for Willie in the crypt again.
This was another one of those instances where it's obvious that they've just reshot the last
Yes.
scene of the
Yeah,
previous episode
it
because
definitely is.
we see Jerry re enter the tomb, but it's much foggier this time, and he's using his flashlight more than he did last
Yeah, it's
time.
it's a different shot, but it is an incredibly similar shot. Then he goes ahead and gives up and leaves, and as he's leaving, we see old Barnabas creeping up out of the shrubbery and watching
And the
him go.
fog.
And the fog, the foggy shrubbery. Opening credits.
Foggy shrubbery sounds like a euphemism.
It sounds like a weed name or something.
After the opening credits at Collinwood, Roger is finishing a phone call in the drawing room. He explains immediately afterwards to Liz and to us that he was calling the Collinsport Inn to look for Barnabas, but they'd never heard of him, so where the hell could he be staying? The only other places to stay in town are like shitty, cheap flop houses for sailors. Roger wants Jerry and Willie to leave so that Barnabas could stay with them. Roger has really taken a shine to Barnabas or the business opportunities that Barnabas presents. We
Yeah.
can't tell yet.
It is really cute though. Roger's like, I have a friend. My friend.
Also, in this conversation, referring to Jerry Maguire and Willie, the blackmailers, he calls them sea tramps, which is funny.
I want to be a sea
I'll put
tramp.
that on the band name
Yeah,
list.
I like sea tramp. Actually, yeah, that's pretty good. He is all excited about going into business with his long lost cousin. But just then, a typo that I have had several times for Barnabas is Barbie. So I have been referring to him as Barbie in my head. Count Barbie. Like we'll try it on. We'll see how we feel. Just then Count Barbie is at the door and has come to call. They have pleasantries and Roger asks where he is staying. He dodges this question and asks where Liz is. They go into the drawing room and say their hellos. Roger asks again where he's staying, and he says his accommodations have been adequate. They offer for him to stay there, and he's like, well, counter offer, I want to move into the old house. Shock on both of Liz and Roger's faces.
Well, to be fair, Barnabas does say it real creepy, and the theremin gets real excited in the background.
Well, you know they can hear.
They can. That's how they know what faces to make.
Exactly.
Roger is like, absolutely not. That place is a wreck. And Liz is just puzzled, like, why
Like,
would you
the
want
fuck?
to live in those dusty old ruins without electricity?
Yeah.
But Barnabas sort of convinces them with his passion for family history and his sob story about how he's the last of his whole branch of the family.
And he feels connected to it and goes on to say he feels connected to them. And that's why he feels so close to them because they're all the last of them.
Liz takes this opportunity to sort of question his paternity in
Yeah.
a way that comes out sounding sort of like, say, Barnabas, you're not by any chance the descendant of a bastard, are you?
Right.
Because
She's like, well,
as far as I know, Barnabas from the painting never married, which means your three times great grandfather would have been a bastard, and that's why I've never heard of you.
we don't, necessarily shun bastards around here, but we might want to employ you along next to Vicky. Like, anyway, so yeah, and he says, I'm not a bastard and assures everybody that it was just a bunch of mean, fighty bitterness, and that's why the stories were not told or inconsistent, and comes up with a plausible enough, thinly veiled thing. Barnabas presses about the house, and Liz is like, I don't even know how to answer that. That's just ridiculous. Like, she's like,
Barnabas is insistent and he even offers to pay rent. Liz is like, no, we're worried for your safety. Like it's crumbling old ruins that could fall down around you. Why would a rich dude such as yourself want to live in ruins? Liz says she needs to think about it, and Barnabas is like, sure, I'll give you some time to think about it.
just consider it seriously. And she says she will.
After she's left the room, Barnabas is like, Roger, am I being weird about this? Is this weird? And Roger doesn't seem to think so. So Barnabas asks Roger to talk Liz into it.
Roger is very funny here because he's like, or Barnabas is like, "Oh, well, yeah, you must have a lot of sway with her." And he's like, "Oh, yes, she'll do whatever I tell her to do." And it's like, nobody does anything you tell them to do except go to bed. Like that's the only thing that for some reason people listen to.
Yeah, it was funny, but Roger does agree to talk to Liz, and I couldn't tell if Barnabas was meant to be brainwashing Roger or if Roger just likes him a lot. Later, Liz confronts Jerry, asking where Willie has gone off to. Jerry admits he doesn't know, and all he can say is that he went out. She's pissed that he didn't keep a better eye on Willie, and she observes that if he's well enough to go out for the evening, he's well enough to leave permanently. She threatens to make Jerry leave again, and he does the whole blackmail routine again.
Back in the foyer, Roger and Count Barbie are talking about being cousins and how,
Barnabas is making business inquiries and he wants to know the name or how to get in touch with the person that owns the shipyard because he
yeah,
wants to buy the shipyard.
yeah, he's just asking Roger for the info from the shipyard he wants to buy. And Roger is eager to, he's like, "Oh, well, I could go talk to them for you." And he's like, "No, I'll do it myself." And so Roger goes off to get said information.
Barnabas at the tail end of like, let me bring up this thing I know you're excited about. And by the way, you promise you'll talk to Liz and try and talk her into doing the thing I want, right?
Right.
And then in the foyer, Barnabas and Jerry meet at long last. Jerry's like, we've met, haven't we? Gee, you look familiar. Barnabas lets slip that he knows that Jerry is a house guest at Collinwood. Jerry picks up on, like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And Barnabas is quick to say, oh, Liz or Roger must have mentioned it in conversation. Jerry goes back to, I swear, you look so familiar. Barnabas explains and goes to stand by the portrait that has always been there. And I'm like, look, see, I look like that dude. That's why. Jerry asks about the jewels, and Barnabas says that the jewels from the painting were not buried with his third great grandfather or whatever painting granddaddy
Painting.
he is. And they are real awkward with each other. And also, Jerry doesn't seem to notice that Barnabas is wearing the ring from the painting. You'd think we would see
Yeah.
him obviously clock that, but we do not.
I thought that too. I was like, I wonder if he's going to at some point, but they're not doing it now, but
Well, we'll just have to see.
dun dun dun.
In the study, Liz opens a book as Roger enters to tell her that Barnabas has gone. He pours a drink and sits next to her to chit chat. He talks about Barnabas and how great he is, and how handsome he is, and how shiny his ring is. He also brings up his request to move into the old house, and Roger is really trying hard to sell her on it. She still isn't ready to decide, and it comes up like Roger suddenly realizes, oh, I never did discover where he's staying. He was going to tell me and give me the number, and he just never did. We cut right back to the foggy cemetery where the spooky music is playing. It's not the Laura is up to something, but it's a minor variation of that, which is the ghost music.
Yeah.
And the spooky music is playing and dogs are barking, and we follow just a pair of shoes climbing the steps to the crypt with a slow and unnecessary reveal that it's Barnabas returning for the crypt for the night,
Yeah.
even though
Okay.
we knew that already.
Right.
End credits. Episode 219, Victoria Winters lets us know that dawn is breaking, which means it's time for Willie's break from Renfielding. So he creeps from the kitchen into the foyer at Collinwood, looking very tired, and he's struggling to walk. Jerry happens upon him, and Willie asks to just be left alone, but Jerry is pissed and says he followed him to the cemetery and saw his car there. Jerry demands to know why he was in the cemetery before the opening credits.
Jerry thinks and implies that he is grave robbing and lying about being sick. Willie says he has to rest and doesn't feel well. He is looking like he's about to collapse right there.
But Jerry's had it and is like, "No, buddy, I'm taking you to the bus right now and you're getting the fuck out of town."
Jerry accuses him of looking for Barnabas's jewels, and Willie unconvincingly says, "Sure, jewels. I need to go lay down." Like he's is not invested in this. He's just trying to get to a fucking bed.
Whatever
Which
you say that will get you to leave me alone long enough to take a nap.
please leave me alone. I need to take a nap.
They go back and forth until Willie collapses in the foyer, and Jerry drags him back to his feet, but Willie cries and begs Jerry to help him. Willie promises he has sworn off his lust for jewels and he just wants to get better and get out of town. Jerry is a soft touch and eventually just helps him upstairs after Willie is demonstrably frightened of the Barnabas painting.
Upstairs, Willie is asleep, and Roger comes in to wake him up and tell him that he is leaving, and he tries to be hardline about it. Willie says he's sick, and Roger says he can't be sick if he was out all night. Willie is struggling and asking for help getting up. Roger mocks him and believes it's all an act. He slow claps and gives some bravo, bravo. Yeah. Then Willie crashes back down on the bed, and Roger is over this and leaves to go talk to Jerry about it.
Downstairs, Roger and Jerry argue, with Roger insisting that Willie is faking, Jerry insisting that he is not. So Roger suggests they get to the bottom of this by fetching the doctor. Jerry points out that, well, I would have, but Willie said no doctors. But Jerry eventually agrees and is like, yeah, I probably should have just got a doctor against his will anyway.
When somebody is walking around fainting and like mumbling and crazy, like you don't necessarily need to listen to them if they're like, no doctor. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, unless they're on like hard drugs and you've got it monitored. I don't know. That's not my life.
At any rate, Roger offers to call a doctor, but instead the phone rings, and our old friend Sheriff is back. He's called because he wants to talk with Roger. He's asking for a meeting, but doesn't seem to want to tell Roger why. Roger eventually agrees to meet him, and then after he hangs up, he explains to Jerry Maguire that the sheriff is always desperate for intelligent conversation and always trying to rope him into joining some committee or another. He gives Jerry the phone book and is like, I can't make that call for you, but here's the phone book. Call Dr. Woodward. Roger leaves to talk to the sheriff and hopes that Willie will be gone by the time he returns. At the sheriff's office, the sheriff is telling Roger all about the cows who have been chupacabra'd. Roger thinks that it's an illness and he doesn't see why this would be a police matter, but Sheriff further outlines that the cows have been drained of blood and it had to be done by a person. It couldn't have been an animal. And we learn from this exchange, which is good because I was thinking, why would the sheriff be calling Roger about this? But Roger informs us in this exchange that the Collins family owns many of the farms in the area. So this is happening on their land.
Roger is aghast about it, and Sheriff George wants to figure out who is doing it. Back at Collinwood, the doctor is there and he says there is no infection in Willie. This doctor is weird because he's like standing on business about certain descriptive words of this man's apparent illness that he says, no, he's not ill or he's not ailing. but he is drained of blood and
Well,
like
it's
it,
just to make the reveal
I
tense, but it
know
is
it is
frustrating.
funny
He's
because
very teasy about it, and
well, there's no infection, and Jerry's like, so he's not sick, and he's like, no, he's not sick, but then he's like,
he's just weak, and his heart rate is elevated because of all of the extra work that his heart has to do, and he's very slow with it. But eventually reveals that Willie has suffered an enormous loss of blood, suspenseful orchestral sting.
back at Sheriff's office, George and Roger are still talking about bloodless carcasses, and George says that they will keep him posted.
Sheriff suggests to Roger that he and the rest of the family keep a lookout for the chupacabra.
Yeah.
Back at Collinwood, Jerry wants to know how Willie would have lost so much blood from such a small wound. The doctor says that it is puzzling because while the cut was small, it was very deep, like all the way down to the veins. It seems to be healing too quickly. Roger returns, and the doctor explains to him about the blood loss. And there's a suspenseful music sting as Roger makes chupacabra connections in his head. Jerry asks Roger what he was going to say, and then Roger changes his mind, like, no, they'll think that's crazy. I'll keep that to myself for now.
Right.
The doctor says that Willie just needs lots of rest and food, and he'll probably be laid up for weeks. In Willie's room, he tosses and turns and moans to no one that he won't go back there. Cut to an exterior shot of the cemetery before the end credits.
Episode
220.
Victoria Winters says Willie has the chupacabra blues, but feels better at night.
Willie wakes in his bed to the spooky music. He slowly rises from the bed to look out the window. He begins to dress as Jerry enters and asks what the fuck he's doing out of the bed. Willie says he's feeling quite a bit better, and he thanks Jerry for his help. Jerry explains what the doctor said and questions how he could be up and around when hours ago the doctor said he had lost so much blood that he would be laid up for weeks. Willie doesn't have an explanation and just looks worried before the opening credits. The opening credits. Jerry demands an answer, but Willie doesn't have one. Jerry just knows that Willie is up to something and suspects that it involves Willie fucking him out of some jewel money. Willie begs him to just leave it alone, but Jerry accuses him of betrayal, and he insists that Willie must go. Willie doesn't argue. He's just like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll go. Jerry offers him the $500 from Liz, but Willie doesn't seem to care at all about that. He's just like, no, that's fine.
This weirds Jerry out.
He has his feelings hurt that Willie isn't more upset about their argument. He calls Willie empty and he hollers, and all Willie can say is that he's sorry. So Jerry says, fucking fine, I'll go get the money and meet you downstairs in a few minutes. So Willie is left alone, and the score gets spookier. Victoria knocks and enters to bring another meal, saying that the doctor said he needed a special diet, so Mrs. Johnson had made him a plate of his special I've been chupacabra diet meal.
Chupacabra diet.
He isn't interested in eating, but Vicky tries to talk him into it, and she starts to leave, but he stops her to say that he's going to be leaving and he apologizes for his previous behavior. And she snaps back amusingly that, yeah, most people are sorry when it is too late.
Yeah.
Willie wants forgiveness, but she won't offer it. She does want to know why he's suddenly remorseful. She asks if it's due to his illness, and he's like, sure,
Sure.
yeah,
Yep.
that's why.
Why not? He is pretty amicable to anything anyone suggests, which could be that he is just open to suggestion, almost like a Haitian zombie scenario, but with vampire blood or whatever. I don't know how Dark Shadows vampire magic works yet, but
They don't either. Like, they started out presenting him as a painting ghost.
yeah.
Downstairs, Jerry asks Liz if she's happy that Willie is leaving. She retorts that she won't be happy until he is also gone. Willie enters and he has something important to tell Liz.
He's acting very urgent, and Liz doesn't want to hear it. He starts to be like, really, I've got to tell you, I've got to tell you. And then just sort of stops and is like, okay.
Well, she won't listen. She just says goodbye and walks away.
Well, he's acting like he's going to warn her about something. And so it's like a calm comes over his panic, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm not going to tell.
Jerry takes him by the arm to lead him out. And at the door, Jerry worries that Willie was trying to, he says, blow the whistle on him. But I was real confused by this because Willie doesn't know what he's blackmailing Liz with. That's been established. So, what is Jerry concerned that Willie was going to blow the whistle about?
That does make sense. I was wondering what exactly Willie knew.
Well, we have seen Willie ask Jerry several times what it is he has on Liz, and he won't tell him.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
neither have
They
I.
could be talking about that. It confused me. But anyway, Willie asks Jerry what's going to happen to him now that he's leaving. Jerry remarks that, well, that is up to Willie. Willie sadly answers that no, it's not up to him, and he walks away.
Jerry shuts the doors, and inside, the clock chimes 7:30. We see Liz and Barnabas in the foyer or the drawing room. Barnabas is saying that he's sorry he keeps popping by randomly. He's asking about the old house a bit more urgently again, and she says yes, that he may stay there, although forgot she doesn't understand why, but go for it. And he's very grateful. She asks if they need to clean it up for him, and he says no, he's already made some plans. He's stoked. Vicky comes down and sees him, and Liz tells her that Barnabas is going to move into the old house. She is shocked and is like, are you really going to live there? And he's like, live. Yes, that's exactly what I'll do because I'm alive. It's very funny.
It is funny, and before they have that little exchange, Liz has gone off to fetch the keys for
Oh,
him.
yes.
Then he does his funny, obvious vampire tell, and he explains to Vicky that he plans to completely restore the house to its original condition. And Vicky, being a history buff, is very interested in
She's like,
this.
dope. That's real cool.
And while vaguely suspicious of him, she's also kind of into Barnabas, it seems.
Fair. I too am a history buff with a penchant for weirdos. So.
Liz comes back with the keys, and Barnabas thanks her again and takes his leave. And as soon as he closes the door, Vicky is like, "What a fucking weirdo." And Liz is like, "Yeah, right. But surely he'll give up on this insane idea and leave after a few days of living in the crumbling mess of cobwebs and dust."
Yeah, Liz does not think it will last, but Vicky says some of her weird psychic stuff about him belonging to the house. Like she's having her like, I feel like this.
She tells Liz that she doesn't think he'll ever leave, that it's like he belongs to the house or the house belongs to him. But then Vicky changes the subject to how weird Willie was being. And Liz is like, yeah, he was being weird.
Yeah, they talk about how he's leaving and how he's changed and how he's weird. And Liz thinks he'll go back to his old rapey ways, but Vicky thinks his change is permanent.
At the old house, we zoom out from Josette's portrait and travel to the door to watch Barnabas enter, backed by fog. He smiles at the empty room and then calls out.
Where are you? What are you waiting for? Come in.
Willie enters behind him. Barnabas orders him to close the door, and he does. Barnabas tells Willie that this will be their home from now on, and there will be lots of work for Willie to do.
He starts to protest, but then just stops.
Barnabas tells Willie it's time for him to go out and that he knows what to do. Willie cries out that he can't, but Barnabas says he no longer has a say in what he does. He tells him to go now, and Willie follows instructions. It seems like Barnabas is delegating his chupacabra chores. A dog howls outside, and
There are spooky Halloween soundtrack noises happening because it's full on spooky time from here on out.
Barnabas smiles and surveys his new old house before the end credits. We did it.
We did it. I think it's interesting the whole like Willie was a raper.
Yes, I did want to bring that up. We have talked about this off mic several times and were waiting to mention it in the show until it was more appropriate. First, there's the whole no homo dynamic of it all, in that in the 1960s, they were unwilling to show a male vampire putting his mouth on a dude because that's gay. So we didn't actually see Barnabas bite Willie, but we have discussed several times how, as much as we dislike the character of Willie the rapist, they are doing sort of an interesting thing with it because the violator is violated
Yeah.
and becomes the unwilling victim who is being controlled and forced to do things against his will. And that is interesting. Or it could have been. Like,
Yeah. It does definitely feel like an intentional choice. I think it is an interesting choice. I don't really have a whole lot more to say beyond that. It's just,
well, I would have preferred if we had actually seen Barnabas attack and bite him.
yes, I think that would have been good. But it's the 60s and that's gay, which to watching all that AMC, it is gay and I like it. Like it. The whole origins of a lot of the vampire business. I mean, we could talk about the queer coding of vampirism for
Well,
days if we wanted.
we'll talk about that on Tome Troop, where we discuss Anne Rice's The Vampire Lestat this month.
Yeah,
So if you want to hear that conversation, you'll need to join our Patreon at the second level.
please do.
Yeah, we kind of appreciate what they've done with Willie, but again, like all the dudes on this show are kind of rapey because it's the 60s and the attitude towards rape is just pretty casual generally. And so, like we talked about last week or the week before, how Burke Devlin, the rapist, is defending everybody from the other rapist.
Yeah,
So,
when he
like,
was trying to strong arm his old girlfriend into making love. There is a questionable, like, this is like way after the fact, but I can't remember if
well,
we
you
talked about
said
it at
at
the
the
time.
time that it seemed like maybe he was being
Being
bird
bird
magicked.
magic. But also, you're right that it's the 60s and that,
Why would she bird magic him into raping her?
well, not being bird magicked for that particular thing, but much like a love spell, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're gonna cast a love spell on somebody,
so he was doing the craft.
yeah, that's what
Okay.
he was doing the crap.
I see.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he's just a rapey 1960s dude.
I
Like,
think it was just the 60s, and because he had fucked her before, he feels like it's his right to do it whenever he wants.
I don't know though, because he really wasn't all that trying. And then after like the conversation on the dock where she was all hypnotizing at him, he started being all horny and hot for Laura and trying to get her any chance he could. And I do think that there was a level of she fucked with him and made it that way. But at the same time, it's still gross and still bad. So I don't know that it is as clear cut, but it was still gross and not fun to watch. He's been shitty to ladies, but I haven't seen him be like unwanted advances that I can recall with anybody other than that instance.
Well, that's because all of the other ladies are into him.
Yeah, that's true. I
But
mean,
no,
I don't want to be like Laura was magically asking for it. Like, I'm not trying to say that. I just think that because he was under bird magic, his affection for her and his desperateness and enthusiasm toward it seemed to be related to that. But the actual action of being like, well, you don't want to, but we're going to, is still horrible and reprehensible. And I have a hard time looking at Burke the same after that.
well, I am interested in what you think about Willie Renfield, and do you
That's what I've
find
been calling
him
him.
less repellent now that he is in servitude
I
and
mean,
getting his comeuppance?
yeah, I didn't watch all of the ones with him in it leading up, and I think I might go back and do that because I
Rebecca
think that
didn't watch 206 through 210,
I
which we've
forget
already
why.
mentioned on here.
I was sick,
I
probably. I'm
think you
always
just
sick.
didn't have the time and you were going to go back and do it and never did.
I think that I may have missed some of that because I haven't really seen a ton of him that isn't all Renfielded. So I'll go back and watch a little bit of him without the vampire madness, but I am hopeful for his character. I think they could do some interesting things with it. But I mean, essentially, he's probably just going to end up being the henchman, I guess. Like,
As we said earlier, tune in tomorrow for the last of our The Vampire Lestat recaps. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube and Threads and Blue Sky and all of the places at Ghosts Want You Dead. I realize I've been saying that for months, and all that time our YouTube channel has actually been Ghosts Want You Dead podcast. But I realized that the other day and changed it. So now it really is Ghosts Want You Dead on all platforms. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/ghosts want you dead, where we offer a variety of bonus episodes in exchange for your financial contributions.
this program is brought to you by Amy and Austin and Jacob. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate you.
We are turning these microphones off.
Okay, we're hanging up now.